There are over 25 teams competing in the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational this year, and many are bringing guys who can legitimately win a tournament title. But don't count the number one seeds as shoo-ins just yet, because there are upsets that happen every single year. Just remember the 157-pound bracket a couple years ago with David Carr, Ryan Deacon, and Hayden Hiley that nobody was expecting the Deacon upsets to happen. So what can you expect from this year's tournament? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling, your source for college wrestling news and discussion. And this week, I'm bringing you a Fanco 5, what to expect at this year's Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational. But first, before we get into that, if you're wondering how to actually watch the event, you can watch live on FloWrestling, get updates, look at brackets. I have that linked up down in the description below, so you can sign up for a FloWrestling membership. If you do it through the link, it actually helps out Fanco Wrestling without costing you anything additional. It's just a great way to support the channel if you're already going to buy the event and watch all the great events on FloWrestling this season. So at number 5, my question is, Pat Glory a threat at 125 pounds? That's the first thing that you got to be watching and expecting at 125 or at Cliff Keen Las Vegas. Is Pat Glory a true threat for a national title? And this weekend helps to decide whether that's the case or not. And yes, Glory has had some incredible seasons, but we haven't seen him wrestle in a couple seasons, right? So how is he going to do against the rest of this field? He has guys with Taylor Lamont of Utah Valley, Pat McKee of Minnesota. Both of those guys, All-Americans, will be wrestling in this weekend's tournament. Malik Heinzelman of Ohio State and Joe Monchio of Columbia are both guys who beat recent All-American Sam Latona. How can Pat Glory do against him? My question is he going to dominate the field? Or is he just going to squeak by with a couple wins? Is he going to major and tech all these guys? How is he going to do against them? Is he going to dominate? And I think this weekend will help decide whether he's a force or a farce. I mean, I have a feeling that he's going to be a force, and I'd love for you to comment below about what you think. But recently, we saw him. He didn't wrestle against Iowa's guy at 125 pounds in the recent controversy with the Iowa and Princeton duel. So how is he going to stack up against the rest of the field? Can he dominate everybody? And speaking of dominance, number 4, Gable Steveson versus Mason Parris showdown. This is something you got to be watching out for this weekend. This is the rematch. And for you, this may be your number one thing to be watching for at the Cliff Keen Las Vegas this weekend, because it's the National Finals rematch, because it's Gable Steveson, because he's just a lot of fun to watch wrestle. He likes to entertain. But is he actually going to wrestle? And I'll get to this kind of annoying thing in just a second, but is he going to show up to wrestle for Minnesota this weekend, or is he busy doing other things? And we know he has this big deal with the WWE. Maybe he's a little bit too busy to be wrestling. Maybe his coaches are saving him for later in the season. But if he does wrestle, is he going to get chippy with Parris? Is Parris going to get chippy with him? Is there going to be like a little kind of scuffle at the Cliff Keen Las Vegas? In heavyweight, a tough weight overall with Tate Orndorff, Christian Lance, Yaroslav Slavikowski, I can never pronounce his name right, of Harvard, Brian Andrews of Wyoming. I mean, this is a tough field, but everybody wants the Gable Steveson versus Mason Parris showdown to happen. And Gable won the title back in 2019, Cliff Keen, so he's looking for his second Cliff Keen Las Vegas title. And this is where I'm going to get into the guys potentially not wrestling. So, number 3, the 141-pound weight class is one you need to watch. 141 pounds. So who are the top dogs at 141 pounds? You got Micic. You got Andrew Alvarez of Northern Colorado. Chad Red of Nebraska. Real Woods of Stanford. Dom Demas of Oklahoma. This is a loaded weight at 141 pounds. One of the toughest weights in college wrestling this season, and one of the toughest weights at this tournament, like, honestly, without a doubt. But here's the one thing. Micic may not be wrestling this weekend. It's looking like he may not even start until the second semester, and it's just kind of annoying, right? I mean, and not anything on Micic, but like, you hear guys are coming back, like Micic and Suriano and Steveson and Spencer Lee, and you get excited because you want to watch them wrestle, and then they wrestle like once a month or like the second semester, and it's like they're just gonna are they just gonna wrestle the bare minimum, or are they gonna wrestle the full season? Like, I want to watch these guys, and I get it. Like, there's health issues that some guys are dealing with. There's a lot of unknowns about teams and what we're what they're doing throughout the season. But man, I wish that he wrestled this weekend. I hope that he wrestles this weekend just so we can get a better look. But even if he doesn't, Andrew Alvarez has a great start to the season of Northern Colorado, 5-0 so far, with his best win over Alan Hart of Mizzou, who's a top 10 opponent in the national field. Chad Red, an All-American who's just recently knocked off by Keyshawn Clark, has a chance for a big return to the season this year if he can win a Cliff Keen Las Vegas title. Real Woods of Stanford and Dom Demas, I mean, they are going to throw some real wrenches in the bracket. And at number 2, Yanni Diakomahalis and Sammy Sasso. Watch out, 149 pounds, because wow. I told you 141 is going to be tough, but 149 is yikes. Now, before I get to that big matchup between Sasso and Yanni, don't count out some of these other guys, like All-American Jaden Abis of Stanford, a tough guy. Ridge Lovett, who's a firecracker when he gets rolling. One of my favorite runs last year was Ridge Lovett of Nebraska at the Big Ten Championships. It was so fun watching him wrestle. Maybe he pulls off an upset, or maybe even Yaya Thomas and Mitch Moore, who are both contenders to make the semis. I don't know if either of them could make the finals. I mean, it's going to be tough to get over a national champion and a 2-time national champion in Yanni Diakomahalis of Cornell and a national finalist and Sammy Sasso. I mean, these two guys, and why this is going to be such a fun match to watch is these are two of the toughest guys in the country to take down. They are so scrambly, so flexible, so amazing to watch wrestle. And I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I would give the edge to Yanni if he makes the return to the mat, at a big tournament this weekend. But they have wrestled in freestyle. Yanni tacked Sasso, but it was freestyle. What happens in folk style? I mean, Yanni got a lot of takedowns in that match. I just rewatched that. If he can take down Sasso, I mean, that many times again in folk style, I will be super impressed. I think 149 is the right weight for Yanni, but we'll really find out this weekend. And at number one, what's the number one thing to watch at the Cliff Keen Las Vegas this weekend? Evan Wick and Shane Griffith, 165 pounds. Watch out for this weight because this is another loaded bracket this weekend. So who else is at 165 pounds? Before I get to the Evan Wick and Shane Griffith situation, and I have a lot to say about that. I have a lot to say about that. Julian Ramirez of Cornell, the freshman who just beat Shane Griffith in the Stanford and Cornell dual meet. Carson Karchla of Ohio State, undefeated freshman, 16-0 just a couple of seasons ago. He's somebody, I mean, if he could make a huge impact at this tournament. Demetrius Romero, All-American of Utah Valley. Cam Amin of Michigan, a 2021 All-American. But between Wick, why is this so big with Wick and Shane Griffith? Well, Wick, this is his first huge tournament return since 2020. We haven't seen him wrestle in a couple seasons. Yeah, he's wrestled the tournament this year so far, but this is a major tournament, Cliff Keen Las Vegas. I mean, between this and Midlands and this is a real test of how he can compete at the national championships. And he's always done well at the national championships, which is why, in my opinion, if Evan Wick wins this weekend, he should be the number 1 ranked wrestler at 165 pounds. Why? At 165 pounds right now, ranked at number 1 on multiple sites is Alex Marinelli. I disagree with that ranking. Why? Because Evan Wick has constantly outperformed Marinelli at the national championships. I understand that Wick has never beat Marinelli, but if we're going off of national championships and performance at the national championships, how he can compete, if Wick beats the most recent national champion, he should be ranked number 1, and I'll have a lot to say about that next week if that is the case this weekend after that happens. But this could honestly also be a case for Shane Griffith to put his stake back on the ground that this is his weight. He deserves to be number 1 at this weight, and we'll find out this weekend because there's a lot to watch out for at the Cliff Keen Las Vegas. Again, if you want to watch live, link down below to the FloWrestling to sign up for an account, and can't wait to see what happens.